Hey guys, it's Joshua here, back with another retro handheld review. Today we've got the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. This little beauty cost me about 260 Aussie dollars, and I'll convert that to US dollars up on the screen. And it also took about 9 or 10 days to ship. I really like the look of the packaging here, it looks premium. But now, let's see what's inside. So we'll just cut the seal here on the box and alright, let's crack into it. Alright, so the first thing you see when you open it up is the actual handheld itself. It's in this little plastic sleeve that can just slip out of the box. And yeah, here we have the actual Retroid Pocket 3. There's nothing else in the box, it's pretty empty. So we'll just set this down here. Put this aside, and let's get into it. So here we have the actual device, the Retroid Pocket 3. It feels really nice in the hands. It feels like a little Nintendo Switch Lite. But yeah, it looks really good, looks really premium. I really like the colorway I went here, the clear blue. You can see the internals. So I'll just put that aside to see what else is in the box. Alright, so we've got a little user's manual. Let's see what's inside. Oh, and here we have the specs of the actual device. So I'll just hold these up to the camera so you can read them. Alright, and we'll put that to the side, and last but not least, we have a USB-C charging cable for the device. This feels like a really premium cable, I'm not going to lie. And yeah, that's everything in the box, so let's put them to the side for now, and let's check out the actual device. It's really nice to hold. But let's get into the buttons. So we've got our ABXY buttons, our D-pad, just normal clicky buttons. We've got our two analog sticks. These feel like they're out of the Joy-Con analogs, is what they feel like, but they feel very nice. We've got our triggers. They're pretty clicky. We've got our basic L1, L2, R1, R2. Is that start and select? Anyway, we got our power button here. We got mini HDMI out, and our start and select buttons, which are located on the top. They're pretty clicky. So let's look at the bottom. We've got our micro SD card slot. This does have internal storage, but there is space for a micro SD card. You just slot it in there. And then we've got our charging port, headphone jack, and our speakers. We've got two speakers down the bottom here. And then on the back, it looks like we've got some sort of vents for cooling. So overall, it looks pretty nice. The buttons are pretty clicky. I really like the transparent shell. I love how you can see the internals here. But yeah, it's a very well built device. So I also forgot that there actually is another button. Oh yeah, here on the side, there's a home button on the side too. So, and a volume up and down on the other side. And I think, yeah, that's all the buttons. So now let's check out the size of the device. So this is the device here, and I've got a Nintendo Switch Lite here. So we'll just put them on top of each other. And as you can see, it is just a tad bit smaller than the Lite, like an inch, I'd say. And here's just a Miu Mini. It's about 1.5 Miu Minis. I don't really. So. But yeah, it actually feels nice, like the Nintendo Switch Lite, but it is a really small device, so you should be able to pocket it. Alright, let's actually go ahead and power on the device and see what it's like for the first boot. So first off, we get a nice Retroid Pocket logo. And it looks like we've got a animated Retroid Pocket logo, which looks really nice, actually. So after the logo and the animated logo, we should boot into Android. And yep, here we go. We're booting into Android. And welcome to the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. So this seems like a normal Android setup, because this is an Android-based device. So let's connect to the internet. I'll just quickly connect to my Wi-Fi off screen. So I've written in my Wi-Fi passwords. We're connected to the internet. So let's go to the next step. Set my time zone. I'll just quickly do this off screen. And we've set our time zone again. Now we've got an option for Google Play services. I disabled it as it has a minor hit to performance, but you will need it to download emulators, so you can turn it back on in the settings. And our next screen is a bunch of emulators that we can choose to pre-install and download from Retroid themselves. So there is a fair few in here. There's Citra, PPSSPP, Flycast, Redream, A4SX2, Retroarch, all that. So I'm just going to go through and pick the ones that I'd like to install. There's also a Dolphin for handheld here, and I do recommend installing that if you're going to play GameCube games. There also is some options for some native Android apps, as this can play native apps because it is a Android-based device. There's PokeMMO, there's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and a few others, but you can actually download games on the Play Store. So I'm just going through here, double checking to make sure that I've got all the emulators that I would like to play selected to make sure, and to actually make sure I have the right Retroarch selected. You need a Arch 64. So when you're done, it'll install all the apps, so they'll be ready to go once we've finished this first boot sequence. So I'll just, I won't bore you here watching the bar go up, I'll just cut to the next screen. So here we select our launcher. Now Retroid does have their own launcher, which is really nice. I picked it, but the other one is just default Android. But actually after playing the device, I do actually prefer Android. So here we have the Retroid launcher. It's empty now because you actually have to add the apps. So we'll just add the apps and we'll come back to it. Alright, so I've gone ahead and added apps to the Retroid launcher, and this is what it looks like. It's pretty much looks like a Nintendo Switch OS. So after hitting emulation down the bottom, you'll get this launcher. It has all the categories of different systems that you can play, and you can actually add your ROMs into each category. And when you pick your ROM from the category, the console, it will load the emulator for that console and load your ROM straight up. It's like the Onion OS. You go on the Game Boy and you pick a Game Boy game and it loads that. It's like that, but this is the Retroid launcher. So emulation is where all the magic happens pretty much. So mine is empty as I don't actually have any ROMs on the device. So let's actually go put some ROMs on here and come back to it. Alright, so this is what normal Android launcher looks like. I've added some ROMs. So here's all our emulators. You can move it around, you can have separate pages. It also comes with some apps as well, some pre-installed just normal Android apps like Google Chrome, Setting, Clock, My Files and all that. So let's get into the emulation tests and see how they go. Alright, so first we got GBA through RetroArch, and it pretty much just runs anything you throw at it at full speed. The chip is very powerful, so GBA games will be a breeze. Alright, so next up we've got PS1 with the Duck Station emulator, and this also runs pretty much most PS1 games. I'm just using default settings here, but as you can see it's running full speed and running very well. Alright, next up we've got DS emulation using Durastic, which is a paid app on the Play Store. It's about $5, and this is pretty much the go-to emulator on Android for DS. So as you can see, it's running pretty well. I'm playing Phantom Hourglass here with the D-pad patch, so I can play with the D-pad and buttons because it is a touchscreen only game. But as you can see, it is running beautifully. Next up, we've got GTA Chinatown Wars running on PPSSPP at 2x resolution using the Vulkan renderer. Now this will tackle most PSP games, but you will get little stutters here and there, just like that. I do believe the stutters are because of shaders being compiled, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, other than that, it pretty much runs beautifully, full speed. Alright, so now on to Dreamcast emulation. We've got the Redream emulator, and we're just using the default settings. So as you can see, it's running beautifully. It's a solid 60 frames a second. I've only played Sonic Adventure 2 so far, so I can't really comment on most Dreamcast performance, but from what I'm seeing here, this looks very playable and looks to be very good. Alright, so next up we've got GameCube using the Dolphin for handheld emulator that comes pre-installed with the Retroid Pocket Free if you select it. And we're running at a 0.7 resolution on the Vulkan compiler. So as you can see, it runs pretty decent. There is little dips here and there. I think that's shader compilation stutter. But other than that, it seems to be running perfect. But just note, with GameCube games, you will have to fiddle around for each game to get a working setting. So you might fizzle with the res or the renderer or something. But yeah, GameCube's running pretty well. But you know, just there is a spreadsheet. I'll link it in the description. You can look at that and see settings for other GameCube games. Alright, so next up, we've got The Simpsons Hit and Run on A for SX2. So this is PlayStation 2. We're using 1x res on Vulkan, and now this is with default settings. So it does take a bit to load. Unfortunately, the Retroid Pocket Free Plus does struggle a bit with PlayStation 2 games. So they'll mostly run fine, but you will encounter, you know, slowdowns, graphical errors, glitches, bugs. But yeah, as you can see, we're not getting a perfect frame rate here. There is a lot of stuttering, and it is not running at full speed. So it'll be like this for most PlayStation 2 games, unfortunately. But you can fiddle with the settings and get a somewhat playable frame rate. Once again, check the community spreadsheet below, and they will have settings that you can have for most PlayStation 2 games, so you can get a playable experience. Also note that Retroid actually did an over-the-air update which has a performance mode that you can enable. It's not on here, but that might help improve the frame rate for PlayStation 2 games. And now we have Shin Megami Tensei 4 on Citra. This is just a normal Play Store app. There is a Vulkan enabled build that you can download off GitHub. But I won't be showing that today as I don't have it installed. So as you can see, it's running full speed, running normally. You will get load stutter and frame rate dips. So I'm not sure if the Vulkan enabled version of Citra will actually fix these problems. It might. I did hear that it actually has a performance boost, which is good. But as you can see, we're running mostly full speed here in the tutorial of Shin Megami Tensei. And as you'll see in a second, when we go to encounter a battle and load, it freezes. It just freezes, but it is actually still going in the background. It's just loading those shaders. So 3DS is playable, but once again, the community spreadsheet, that'll have settings for most games that will let you get a playable frame rate. And last but not least, since this is a Android enabled device, you can play native Android apps. So here's just a little bit of Pokey MMO just to show, because it's all I've got installed for a native Android app on the Retroid at the moment. So as you can see, it's running perfectly. You could run popular games on this, but I'm not really sure. I think Call of Duty Mobile, you might get some stutter, maybe some frame rate dips. I'm not too sure, but you can play native Play Store Android apps on this device. Alright, so now let's get into the pros and the cons of the Retroid Pocket Free. So first we'll go through the pros. It's built well. It's a very built sturdy device. It won't break easily. So, and the next thing, it's ergonomic. It feels really good in the hands, really good to hold. You can have long play sessions with this. It has really good colorways, like the clear blue shell. There's also a clear purple. It has 128 gigs of internal storage, which is great if you don't have a micro SD card. And you can get new performance updates over the air. So the cons, it is a bit on the pricey side. It cost me 260 Aussie dollars. Another con is that it could be replaced by any moment. What I mean by this is that there actually was a Retroid Pocket 3, not Plus, which had a weaker chipset, and this came out only a few weeks after and had immediately better specs when the non-Plus was marketed as one of the best handhelds on the market. So the same could happen to this. A refresh or a new model could just come out one day without anyone knowing, and you could have just brought it, and then the next comes out the next day. So just keep that in mind when you're buying it. And it gets really warm when you play in those newer emulators like PS2 or GameCube. And yeah, that's the Retroid Pocket 3. If you guys are looking for a great handheld that will pretty much tackle all retro systems, this is the one to get. But just remember that con where it could be replaced at any moment with a newer, better, more powerful chip. But in saying that, yeah, if you guys like the video, leave a like, leave a sub. I'm always looking for feedback on my reviews, so if you have any feedback, leave a comment, let me know, and I hope you all have a good day. Thanks for watching, and peace.